the yielding potential. So the agronomy of millet, as opposed to the farmer practices, we encourage farmers to plant the millet in lines, of course having well prepared the fields. It was not easy when we would tell farmers that millet can be actually planted in lines. Actually, most of them thought it was a joke. But with the demonstrations, we really feel it helped the farmers.
I am not afraid of farming because with farming, I have gained a lot. And with this method of farming, you plant less and harvest more. With a kind of method, I can plant on less an acre of land for about 2 days and go do other work. But if I'm not to plant on an acre, on time of harvest, I gain more and sometimes it's overwhelming.
Kale tokurugayo ngoze kwinge bitakuroze kwinge bintu konkate bino basano kushubura abuko musiri ningo bagare biro bibiri gwagura umuhango ecweka cha kale gwagura eka ningo bagare biro bibiri nzo mu bindi ningananye nduhuka konka yaba erinka eka ninge ecweka oriyo noza kugombera no gombera ugaruka gurara gusigara kale mwata hamwe gubara mbweno bura kugwika oburo butarika bugwa no mukerari
Linama oruyinja rwiki rungi atenga murabe emirandira gyobulo wano wegikoma kakate nebo botaddemu ebijimusa emirandira gino bwe gibate kisobola kutuuka bijimusa bufuuka butya bwebuto kyobola abantu bagamba nti bw'obapwe mulina amasha ebiriisa bino ebisi amasha ebinyankole ebiriisa ebinyankole n'obitabika muki mutaka muno noteka muno akati ebijimusa bino byetuleeta ebizungu bino extended peak ebutwaleeta alwamu mutaka era tolaba yero oyo muki mungi era obulo obusinga obungi nga bulina awalya emiki amayinja botera okukola ki yere oyo olaba wanankuba weyatwala waliki walinyoyero kale bw'oba nga osobola okufuna ebigundi ebyo n'otaboka mutaka bwoti osobola okukola ki
a farmer learning platform by the side. This really proves to the farmers the importance of the technologies we are promoting. This particular farmer here did not apply any technology. You can see the millet was broadcasted. The plant completion is high, very overcrowded, and the yellowing is basically a nutrient deficiency issue. So, which is actually what is not happening in the other field where we have proper nutrients.
At time of harvest, me and Mama Isma would come at 8 a.m. because we had planted millet on adjacent piece of land. At about 10 a.m., Mama Isma would go back home with over 3 bags of millet. I defied to her that I will never plant millet again in my life. At one time, she came and convinced me that she was going to plant millet from Sekakawa, and I told her, where are we going to plant it from, yet we do not have land? As a group, we had to rent a piece of land in Buhamburu and started growing millet. I can never stop thinking of Sekakawa because even if I get a visitor today, I would slaughter chicken for them. And if I want money, I would still go sell some chicken in Yamunuka and get the money. I have never bought millet again ever since I started planting with the ideas and knowledge from Sekakawa. I am so grateful that I should even clap hands for Sekakawa.
It is very possible, and you would actually enjoy planting millet. Actually, I must say that where we are standing right now, it's quarter an acre garden. But if I tell you that we used less than a kilo of seed, you may not believe it, but that is the truth. First of all, by planting in lines, you save on the seed that you would have used. You use very little seed compared to what a traditional farmer would have used. So how to achieve that is actually very easy. You get your millet. For instance, here we used half a kilo. That is basically 1 cup of millet. So the 1 cup, we teach the farmers how to make sure that it is easily spaced. We encourage you mix 1 cup with the sand and some ash in a ratio of 1 to 3. So that means for the 1 cup of millet seed, you put in 3 cups of sand and then with the ash mixed together. The rationale is that the ash is going to ensure that the millet is released at a pace that is not pouring. So you're able to release as little millet seed as you can, and then you have a bigger volume of the seed compared to when you'd use just plain millet to sow. When you broadcast one, you're using too much seed. That is already an economic loss. Secondly, the millet becomes overpopulated. Then there is a risk of too much disease and nutrient deficiency, which is opposed to when you plant in lines. And of course, planting millet in lines is very easy. You just need to have a very good ratio. You mix 1 cup of millet with 3 cups of soil and 1 cup of ash to ensure that you release as little seed or grain as possible. So farmers are convinced, and in some areas we have also improvised them line markers that help them to ensure that planting in lines is not so complicated. But the farmers here now are already convinced that it should not be broadcasting anymore.
Oburo ahinja bukumegana abo twata buryo nebirisa bigira bita bikanya byeyongera cengana nabaza hari yaguruka karo kinjaka nango muri kabukwatana bucompeting batabana na mizi nemere ibirisa bicendera cubare birisa bya potassium byayongera byazamu byaba bice biye gitanda burwira kwa burumbu usanga wajirota omawune ndwara ukamunagira ki ene kiriza cengana mbene tuonje na tuataka kira ku rwano so burwire tu spacing ejo burugito twacengana dero twamara izo ndwara zone zirwo mu rufango disease nizikirakanya nazikanya kwira bwejura konka segitande biri sakona nagambere cyongera kisisikara cyo mbere turagame twakora kigambere nimwe baza mu training kugira ngo tuza kongera kureta mubazi na umuntu basagwegura bwo kurwana so burwire tuneterezo ko bwoko gonka nkatwashanga kiri mu gira kita ombazo obwoko obwire ko yongera mbene uragura mbazi tuzagure mbazi harimo ka Victory jeri nkenyanya munjenga Victory kabanga inamani mingi ngabata kwasigira basakoresa endofiru makoze utabere Victory yawe ninga harvester rudemiru ne basakora magamanga expensive ne gura sente nyingi munonga konka Victory harvester na fungicide nizikora nco cyumwe tujifuhirize twabantu fero mbazgo bukoko oburo bwo batakaricire bora.
Harvesting should be done when the grains are hard, but before they dry so much. Delayed harvesting results in the chattering of the finger millet heads and therefore a huge loss of grain. Quick tips for planting finger millet in Uganda. We know the millet grains meant for planting if you are to use home-kept grains. The alternative would be washing the seeds in water, sieving off the floating seeds. After, ensure to dry them. Finger millet production is more on fine seed beds. Open up a shallow trench on a well-prepared land. The trenches can be dusted with germinating inoculants or fertilizers. Then spread the seeds thinly along the trench. Cover the seeds with soils to protect them from the external surface. Finger millet, scientifically referred to as Elusinicoracana, is an annual grass ground for its grain, which can be used for food or for brewing. Its straw can be used as an animal feed. It's a robust tailoring grass which grows in tufts, has erect, light green stems, leaves are dark green, linear and mainly smooth, with some hair along the leaf edges, and the inflorescence is a cluster of 3 to 26 fingers, composed of dense spikelets where the grain or seed is produced. Finger millet can reach 1.7 meters in height and is harvested after one growing season. Varieties. P224. This is a brown-seeded variety, usually tall with uniform plant height, and is tolerant to lodging and blast. It takes 3 to 4 months to mature. Katumani. It is a red-seeded variety, short and is drought-tolerant. It takes 3 months to mature. U15, Gulu, and Okahel 1. These are new, superior finger millet varieties which guarantee higher yields, tolerance to drought, stringer weed, and blast disease.
Yeah, NGA code Sasakawa Global 2000, it came in, they trained us about growing millet and other crops. But on millet, they told us that millet can be grown in rains. We couldn't believe it because we have never seen such. We have never seen anyone growing millet in rains because we are used with our traditional methods of growing millet. But when they trained us, they put demonstration gardens in some fields. Then we could go there and learn how to plant millet in rains. So we tried it because they brought very many varieties where there was Seremi 2, Seremi 1, and Pese 2 and Pese 1 in different demos. So we were trying to see whether which variety can do well compared to our local millet. Then when it came, they trained us on using fertilizers. At first they trained us to use DAP at planting. Then we add urea at 45 days. That is 1.5 months of planting. Then they taught us when you are planting millet in rains, you use 1 feet, that is 30 centimeters between rains. You get your peg. They trust the pegs. You make a peg. You put a peg here. Then in between here, you leave 1 feet. Then after that was a bit tiresome. They brought planting rakes, which are made. They are like rakes. In between, it's 1 feet. Then you hold it. You pour. When you are pouring, it leaves there some lines. So in those lines of 1 feet and in the depth of at least 3 inches deep, then in those very ridges you have put with a planting rake, you put fertilizer called DAP. At first we were using DAP, but right now we are using NPK brand. You put DAP in those lines, then or you put NPK in those lines, then you cover with little soil. You leave there the ridges. So when you put those fertilizers, you cover it with soil, so that the soil, the seed couldn't. It's not good to get contact into the fertilizer because it burns the seed when it's germinating. Then after putting the millet, but before you put the millet, after putting the fertilizer, you get sand at a ratio of 3:5. That is sand, 3 cups of sand, 1 cup of millet, and another cup, 1 cup of ash, wood ash. Then you mix them, that you can allow a spacing of at least 5 centimeters from a seed to a seed. Then you start drilling. You pour the millet, which is mixed with sand and ash. Then after that, you cover the garden, you level it, and you don't put there these clods, because they may cover the millet and it brings the poor germination. But you have to make sure that when you are using fertilizers, as we have been told, and how we are doing it, you must make sure that the soil is well moist, so that the fertilizer can dissolve so quickly.
You know, when we are bringing a new system in a community, we have an approach how we approach this, our traditional farmers. First and foremost, we first gather information concerning how they have been doing their thing, how they have been planting, broadcasting way, using the traditional seed or home seed seeds. But now, since we started like 3 years back, we started training them. We got information. We trained them about the new technologies compared to the way they have been doing. As the principles in the extension work, where they say start where people are with what they have, help them to help themselves. So we started with what they are doing, practicing the traditional way. So eventually we trained them how to plant our millet using our new technologies, using improved seed, using planting in lines, soil and water management, weed control, spacing, that is planting in lines again, then pest and disease control.
Usually applied to decorticate millet grains, partially or completely, before further processing and consumption. Whole grains may as well be directly dry milled to give a range of products: broken or cracked grains, grits, coarse meal, and fine flour. Almost without exception, women do traditional milling and decorticating of millet. Pounding is washed, and the clean endosperm recovered is left for sun drying. The depth of planting should not exceed 5 centimeters, otherwise the grains will be buried too deep for them to germinate. Finger millet can be dry planted too. The seed rate of the crop is about 4 to 8 kilograms. Finger millet easily gets out competed by weeds if the weeds are not cleared early enough. This is because grassy weeds are difficult to differentiate them from millet in the early growth stages of the crop. Weeding should be done when the crop is about 2.5 centimeters high and is done by hand within the row and with hand hose between rows. A second weeding is usually done a month after the first weeding. Then during the first weeding, excess finger millet plant may be uprooted to leave millet spaced at 3 to 5 centimeters between plants.